devotees. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraet Nashtaprayesu Avadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Today we are reading from Canto 10, Chapter 1, verses 56 through 69. Sloka 56. Each year thereafter, in due course of time, Devaki, the mother of God and all the demigods, gave birth to a child. Thus she bore 8 sons, one after another, and a daughter named Subhadra. 57. Vasudeva was very much disturbed by fear of becoming a liar by breaking his promise. Thus, with great pain, he delivered his firstborn son, named Kirtiman, into the hands of Kamsa. 58. What is painful for saintly persons who strictly adhere to the truth? How could there not be independence for pure devotees who know the Supreme Lord as the substance? What deeds are forbidden for persons of the lowest character? And what cannot be given up for the sake of Lord Krishna by those who have fully surrendered at his lotus feet? 15. My dear King Parikshit, when Kamsa saw that Vasudeva, being situated in truthfulness, was completely equipoised in giving him the child, he was very happy. Therefore, with a smiling face, he spoke as follows. 60. O Vasudeva, you may take back your child and go home. I have no fear of your first child. It is the 8th child of you and Devaki I am concerned with, because that is the child by whom I am destined to be killed. 61. Vasudeva agreed and took his child back home. But because Kamsa had no character, no self-control, Vasudeva knew that he could not rely on Kamsa's word. Text 62 to 63. The inhabitants of Vrindavan, headed by Nanda Maharaj and including his associate cowherd men and their wives, were none but denizens of the heavenly planets. O Maharaj Parikshit, best of the descendants of Bharata, and so too were the descendants of the Vrishni dynasty, headed by Vasudeva and Devaki, and the other women of the dynasty of Yadu. The friends, relatives, and well-wishers of both Nanda Maharaj and Vasudeva, and even those who externally appeared to be followers of Kamsa, were all demigods. 64. Once the great saint Narada approached Kamsa and informed him of how the demoniac persons who were a great burden on the earth were going to be killed. Thus Kamsa was placed into great fear and doubt. 65 and 66. After the departure of great Saint Narada, Kamsa thought that all the members of the Yadu dynasty were demigods, and that any of the children born from the womb of Devaki might be Vishnu. Fearing his death, Kamsa arrested Vasudeva and Devaki and chained them with iron shackles. Suspecting each of the children to be Vishnu, Kamsa killed them one after another because of the prophecy that Vishnu would kill him. 67. Kings, greedy for sense gratification on this earth, almost always kill their enemies indiscriminately. To satisfy their own whims, they may kill anyone, even their mothers, fathers, brothers, or friends. 68. In his previous birth, Kamsa had been a great demon named Kalanemi, and been killed by Vishnu. Upon learning this information from Narada, Kamsa became envious of everyone connected with the Edu dynasty. 69. Kamsa, the most powerful son of Ugrasena, even imprisoned his own father, the king of the Yadu, Voja, and Andaka dynasty, and personally ruled the states known as Surasena. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Archit Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Chaitanya Chandra Das Prabhuji, please accept our humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Please take over the call, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. Thank you, Achyut Prabhu, for reading the translations today. I'll start by offering my prayers. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारुणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरम् Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you for joining the discussion today on reading Srimad Bhagavatam. We have begun recently the Canto 10 of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we are in chapter 1, and today is going to be the last section of chapter 1, titled The Advent of Lord Krishna. So in the past couple sessions, we have heard how the Devatas, they go and pray to Lord Vishnu, and Lord Vishnu assures them that he's going to appear in this earth, and he requests all the demigods to start taking birth in the different dynasties, in the Yadu and the Vrishni dynasty. And then Sukdev Goswami begins the story from when Kansa is taking his sister's chariot after her wedding, and all of a sudden there is a spiritual voice that says in the sky that Devaki's eighth son is going to be Kansa's demise. And how we see this wonderful discussion that happens between Vasudev and Kansa, and how Vasudev so nicely impresses upon Kansa and is able to save Devaki at that time. And from there onwards, they come upon this agreement that Vasudev is going to hand over all the child that is born from Devaki to Kansa. So that is where this discussion begins today. So in text 56, it is said, each year thereafter, in due course of time, Devaki, the mother of God and all the demigods, gave birth to a child. Thus she bore 8 sons, one after another, and a daughter named Subhadra. So Srila Prabhupada emphasizes on this part in this shloka, which says Devaki Sarva Devata. Sarva Devata means she, Prabhupada translates as the mother of all demigods. It's said in the translation, the mother of God and all the demigods. So Srila Prabhupada highlights in the purport that it is to be understood that all the demigods are just part and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So because they all come from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because Mother Devaki is the mother of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, she can also be counted as the mother of all the demigods in that particular sense. Sri Prabhupada also helps us understand that the Lord, when he expands, he has primarily two expansions. Swa Amsha expansion, which is his own plenary portions, his own spiritual energy as personality of Godhead, Sri Balaram and Srimati Radharani. and further expansions from them. But there are also Vibhinna Amsha expansions. So there's Swa Amsha and Vibhinna Amsha. Vibhinna Amsha are parts and parcels of which come the demigods and the living entities. So the demigods taking their origin themselves from Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mother Devaki can also be considered the mother of all demigods. Moving on to text 57, it is said that Vasudev was very much afraid of being called a liar by breaking his promise. So we see that a devotee has wonderful qualities that Sri Krishna enlists in Bhagavad Gita. And one of the qualities of a devotee is truthfulness or honesty. So Vasudev, and this is the reason Kans trusted Vasudev, because he knew that Vasudev is well known to be honest because he's a devotee. So he's not going to go back on his words. So a devotee should have such qualities and should not abandon these qualities or principles in any situation. Srila Prabhupada also emphasizes in the purport that, once when a child is born, there are 10 samskars that a child has to go through, or a living entity a human being has to go through from the womb to the tomb. And the first samskar usually is Namkaran samskar. And that even though knowing that Vasudev knew that he would have to hand over the child to Kansa, he still, as part of the duty, he went ahead and did the Namkaran Samskar, and the first son was given the name of Kirtiman. In text 58, we'll discuss a very important point over here. So it is said that what is painful for saintly persons who strictly adhere to the truth. So it may be seen that this was a very painful act by Sri Vasudev to hand over his firstborn child to Kansa. So normally we are all attached to our children, and especially our firstborn child. The first time that we've experienced the joy of parenthood, and to willingly take it and give it away to a demoniac person only to be killed is a very painful situation. And oftentimes this question can be asked is, why did Vasudev not fight for his child? Why did he not protect his child and simply hand him over to Kansa? So the acharyas help us understand these difficult concepts from the shastras, and they let us know that that both Devaki and Vasudev, when they had heard the prophecy that the Supreme Personality of God is going to appear from their womb, Devaki's womb, as their eighth son, they were extremely happy to be part of that service. And they were so enthusiastic and they wanted that opportunity to come soon, that even though they understood that the children may have to go through death, the first seven children, but the eighth one is going to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So because of that enthusiasm was one reason where Vasudev was able to stay calm and stay true to his word. One other thing that that devotees help us understand, that these six sons of that were killed initially, from six sons born of the womb of Devaki that were killed, represent the six sons of Rishi Marichi. Srila Prabhupada gives a detailed explanation at the end of this chapter 1. So if anybody is interested, they can read through where there's detailed explanation given about different aspects covered in this chapter. So when referring to these six sons of Mother Devaki that were killed, Srila Prabhupada goes on to give us a little bit history and states that in the past, these six sons were actually in the lineage of Hiranyakashipu, and they were sons of a demon Kalnemi. So because of that, and what they had done, these six sons, they had approached Brahma to also gain different powers, and this had really agitated Hiranyakashipu because he considered himself to be the most powerful. So he had actually cursed his own grandchildren that they would have to take birth in this age, and they would have to be killed by their own father because they did not listen to their ancestors. So as a result, these sons later take on birth as sons of Marichi and then later on appear as sons of Devaki, only to be killed. His Holiness Swayam Bhagwan Keshav Maharaj also explains in his book, the book Bhagavatam, quoting our acharyas, that these six sons actually represent the six anarthas that are there in our heart: lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and envy. So although it is difficult for us to, it was difficult for Vasudev to give up his son. Similarly, these six anarthas are like, they are born from our heart. They are born from our heart. They are like our own offspring. They're our own products. So sometimes giving it up is very, very difficult, very, very hard. Our acharyas explain that in most schools of thought, most schools of philosophy, or different religions in the world, the concept of negating sin is there. If you committed a sin, you can do such and such an act to negate the effect of the sin. But it is only in our Sanatan Dharma, only in literature that is explained to us by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, that we actually understand how do we attack the root of the sin. And sometimes attacking the root of the sin is very, very painful. Anybody who has done gardening knows that it is very easy, if you want to take care of weeds, to just cut the weeds superficially and everything will look nice for a few days. But because unless until you eject the weeds in the soil from the root, completely taking the root out, it is eventually going to grow back again. So similarly, these anarthas that are there in our heart, in terms of lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, envy, these are growing in our heart like weeds. And to explant them, to eradicate them from our heart, is a very, very painful process. And it takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of humility, it takes a lot of honesty to recognize these anarthas in our heart. Because when sometimes people bring it up in front of us, oh Prabhu, you are so, maybe you should not take so much credit for it, or maybe you are in false ego, you are in Maya. Immediately our false ego defends ourselves. No, 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 how can I be in Maya? I'm a devotee. But we do not understand. We should take guidance from senior devotees and mentors, and I'm speaking for myself, and they will help us realize these anarthas in our heart. And giving up these anarthas is very, very important for us to advance in spiritual life. There is a nice story that Srila Prabhupada often used to say, that once there was a marriage party that had to go, that was traveling to the marriage venue, and it was night time, and they had to reach the venue by the morning, and there was a big river that had to be crossed. So they approach the boatmen, and the boatmen, they make the arrangement for the Lakshmi, and the boatman agrees, and they all board the boat. And he says, "You all just take rest, so you're ready for the wedding tomorrow, and I'm going to take you across the river, and we'll reach there by the morning." So through the night, they hear the sound of the water being moved by the oar. They hear the sound of the splashing waves against the side of the boat, and they all fall asleep. When they get up in the morning and they open their eyes, they are shocked to see that they are still at the same point where they had started, and they are not able to make it time for the wedding. So they don't realize what happened, and they see the boatman is rowing, and he's tired, but they have not gone anywhere. And they realize what happens is that the boatman forgot to remove the rope that was tied to the anchor at the shore. So even though he was making so much effort, the boat was not going anywhere. Similarly, these anarthas that are there in our heart are like deep-rooted anchors in our spiritual life. If we are not able to get rid of them, if we're not able to give them up, just like how Sri Vasudev, gave up those six sons in order to achieve Krishna, then it's going to be very difficult for us to advance in life. And at some point, we may feel that our bhakti has become stagnant. We're just floating around and not making any progress, not going anywhere. So it is very, very important for us to understand this. Also, one thing I've realized over a period of time is that our heart, our consciousness, has only so much space in it. We only have so much bandwidth. In order to fit Krishna, in order to fit bhakti in it, we have to get rid of something else. We cannot have everything. We cannot have material enjoyment and sense gratification as well as advance in bhakti at the same time. So in order to advance in bhakti, we have to be able to give up these things. Even though it's painful, it's like ripping our heart apart. By acknowledging that we have these deficiencies, that we have these anarthas that we deal with, it is very, very important. Because what's going to happen when these 6 sons in the form of lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, envy, once we give up these 6 sons, once we get rid of them, then something very special is going to happen. Lord Krishna is going to take birth in our heart, just as he did in the womb of Devaki. So what we understand from this is even though it was difficult for Vasudev, he went ahead with this proposition and handed over the 6 sons to be killed by Kansa. It's also important that we should have this consciousness daily in our practice. Whenever we offer, most devotees would pray to Lord Nrsingadev every day, and we offer prayers. Then we usually worship Lord Nrsingadev, and we pray to Lord Nrsingadev and ask him to remove all the obstacles that are there in our bhakti. Sometimes in our material life, sometimes in our like practical day-to-day obstacles. But we should also remember that when we're praying to Lord Nrsingadev, we should pray to him to come and rip our heart open and remove the anarthas that are keeping us from advancing in our Krishna consciousness. So in that mood, we can also pray to Sri Nrsingadev. So in text 59, it is said that Srila Prabhupada emphasis on this word samatvam, that Vasudev, Kansa saw that Vasudev, even in this situation, was completely equipoised in giving him the child. So a devotee is not affected by external situations, but always stays equipoised, knowing that the good and the bad will keep on coming. But he has to continue performing his duties. And seeing such a wonderful nature of the devotee, Kans became very impressed, and he told Vasudev, you can take your child home. I don't have any fear of your first child. It is the 8th child that I'm concerned about. So it is seen that a devotee, whenever we go out for preaching, we should always behave like Srila Prabhupada used to say, like a gentleman. And we should always impress upon other people the good qualities. There are two principles in different religious schools again in the world that we see. One principle is based on fear, and that comes from practitioners in different religions who approach God as an almighty personality who should be feared. So they fear God, and they instill fear in the hearts of those who do not fear God, and that's what they encourage because of their misinterpretation of the Shastras. However, we see through the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what we have learned through the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, that we understand the goal of life is to develop love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when we develop love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we should love Krishna so madly that anybody who sees us should also want to become madly in love with Krishna. And we see this by the good example that Vasudev also set, that even Kansa was impressed by Vasudev and said, no, you can take your first child. I'm so pleased by your equipoised nature. In text 61, so Vasudev agrees, but he understands at the same time this Kansa, he works at the level of senses and mind, which is very fickle, and there is no control on his word, and anytime he can go back on his word. So he has that understanding. In text 60 to 63, it is said that when Lord Krishna appears, when Lord Vishnu told the Devatas that I'm going to appear, he told them that I'm going to come with my entourage, my associates from the spiritual world, and I want to come with the demigods, the people, the denizens of the heavenly planets, and he asks all of them to come and take birth in the Yadu Vansh and the Vishnu dynasty. And why does he do that? Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, and Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Pavitranaya sadhunam vinashachaya dushkritam dharma samsthapanataya sambhavami yuge yuge. There are 3 reasons that the Lord primarily appears in this world. So let's take it in the reverse order. Dharma samsthapanataya. So in order to establish dharma, the Lord does not need to appear. Dharma can already be established through the Shastras, the scriptures that have been given to us, the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in order to expand on that Dharma, the Lord sends His pure devotees, like His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, for us to understand and appreciate this path of Dharma. So the Lord doesn't need to necessarily appear to establish dharma. But that is a third reason that he does. The second reason is to vinasha chayam dushkritam, to kill the demoniac people, demoniac tendencies. Even for that, the Lord doesn't need to appear. He can just sit in the spiritual world, click his fingers, and Kansa can have a heart attack, or Kansa can have a cancer, and he can be killed without lifting a finger also. So even for that reason, he doesn't need to come. But the main reason the Lord comes is Pavitranaya Sadhunam, is to inspire us, to give us a display, a trailer of what spiritual world is like, what spiritual relationships is like, what spiritual life is like. What are we trying to achieve? We are struggling every day in bhakti. We are controlling our senses. We are trying to chant our rounds sincerely. But why are we doing this? We are doing this because we want to achieve this destination where we can assist the gopis in the service of Sri Radha Krishna. So in order to show us what that means, the Lord appears in this material world and displays his eternal pastimes. It is said in our Shastras, Aradhya Bhagavan Rajes Tanayas Tadhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachatupasana Vrajavadhu Vargenaya Kalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam Prema Pumarto Mahan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhum Matamidam Tatradaro Na Para Aradhya Bhagwan Rajesh Tanayas. Who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Lord Krishna, who is Vrajayatanajas. His Holiness Gaur Govinda Swami helps us understand that the Lord has appeared in so many different incarnations, in so many different forms, and has done so many wonderful pastimes and leelas. But still, the original personality of Godhead is Sri Krishna in Vrindavan. Srila Gaur Govind Swami Maharaj explains that when Lord is there in the opulent form in Dwarka as a king, he is Purna. When he is in Mathura, he is still enjoying some pastimes. He is Purna Taraha. So he is magnificent. He is more magnificent. But when he is in the Vrajendra Nandan Roop in Krishna, as Krishna, Shamsundar Roop in Krishna and Vrindavan, that he is Punattama. He is the most magnificent. So how would we understand this most magnificent original form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead if Krishna did not bring his dham with him, his associates with him into this material world for us to hear those pastimes, relish those pastimes? In the next part is said, Ramya Kajit Upasana Vrajavadhu Vargena Ya Kalpita. And what happens in Vraj? In Vraj, we see that the damsels of Vraj, the gopis of Vraj, the dealings that they have with Lord Krishna, the affection that they have for Lord Krishna, that is the affection, that is the goal of life, to achieve that kind of Krishna prem. And our goal is to assist them in their service of Sri Krishna. So how would we know that if Lord Krishna, like it's said in this verse, did not bring his associates with him in different forms in the dynasties of Yadu and Vrishni? How would we see what happens in the spiritual world? What are the exchanges if those personalities did not so kindly and mercifully come to show us this trailer? And how do we know these things? Through Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the Praman. There is the factual evidence that is there in Srimad Bhagavatam, and that teaches us that Prema Pumartha Mahan, the highest goal of life is achieving Krishna Prema. So, because in order for us to understand and appreciate these things, um, the Lord descends in this world with his associates, so we can have a display, a taste of what spiritual world looks like. And this is confirmed by, this is the highest opinion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In text 64, it is said that once Kans sent Vasudev home, Narad approaches Kans and informs him that the demoniac persons are going to be killed. Srila Prabhupada again at the end of this chapter gives an elaborate description on this, that actually Narad Muni he makes up a story that he was passing by a forest and he saw a meeting of the demigods, and they were all discussing that soon the demoniac people, including Kans, is going to be killed in order to um, hasten the process of the appearance of the Lord, so that the Kams who comes would be placed into great fear and doubt. Now, it is also to be understood that Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that it is Lord Krishna's business to kill the demoniac people. So it is also our business, because it is Lord Krishna's business, it is also our business to kill the demoniac people in this world. So how should we kill the demoniac people in this world? So we should take a knife, go into the kitchen, cut vegetables, offer nice bhoga to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and distribute that as prasadam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taken birth in this age not to kill people by weapons, but to kill the demoniac tendencies by the mercy of Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that mercy we distribute through the form of prasadam, through the path of Harinam Sankirtan, and through the path of book distribution. And book distribution, like Srila Prabhupada used to say, is our family business. So we can also assist the Lord in this mission of killing the demoniac tendencies by these various services. Then it is said in text 65-66, it goes on to again deliver that describe that how our Kans thought that any of the child could be a Vishnu, any of the 8 children could be Vishnu. So he goes ahead and arrests them and goes on to kill one child after another. In text 67, we see what is a description of the modern day leaders. That modern day leaders are only engaged in sense gratification, and because of that, they are willing to go to any extreme and kill their enemies indiscriminately to fulfill their senses. Sense gratification can be 3 types. First type of sense gratification is gross, where we are just engaged in fulfilling our immediate senses with eyes, nose, ears, touch. Second type of sense gratification is subtle, where we want fame, we want our name, we want respect from society, and for that we can do anything that's needed. And the third kind of sense gratification is called extended self gratification. So sometimes these demoniac leaders may not be wanting things for themselves, but for their own extended self gratification, for their family, for the community, they're willing to go to any extent of breaking the laws of dharma to fulfill their extended sense gratification. So this is what we see from Kansa's nature. In text 68, it is said that in the previous birth, Kansa was a great demon named Kalnemi. And again, Srila Prabhupada explains this at the end of this chapter in the descriptions. And he was killed by Lord Vishnu in his previous birth. So it is also important to see that asuras, they take birth as asuras. Because once they take birth as asura and they continue the demoniac activities, it is very difficult for them to be delivered through, even though the Lord's mercy is there. So sometimes to deliver these people and these personalities, the only way possible is for the Lord to come and annihilate them and show his mercy in that way, so that they are able to get out of the cycle of birth and death. In the last shloka for today in text 69, we see how the description of Kans was so envious that even his own father he imprisoned. And even in modern day history, Srila Prabhupada quotes the example of Aurangzeb. We see how there were rulers who were so envious and so greedy that they would not hesitate to even imprison their own family and kill them in order to achieve this high position of power. So with this, we've seen today some wonderful examples of how we can get rid of anarthas and how we can engage in service, and the wonderful mercy that the Lord has given to us by appearing in this world with his associates in Dham in order to inspire us to chant sincerely and go back home back to God. With this, we'll end our discussion today. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for a very beautiful class. Thank you all devotees for joining the class today. Hare Krishna.